Welcome into the betPARX pregame show presented by Lehocky from Parks Casino in Bensalem, just 20 minutes north of Philadelphia. What we have on hand kicking off in a little over an hour is your Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Cincinnati Bengals for a feat that they've never accomplished, which is beating the Cincinnati Bengals, beating them in Cincinnati, and hopefully not tying them this time around. The Eagles are coming off two get-right games, as are the Cincinnati Bengals.
Wait a minute. I didn't know a game could end in a tie.
don't put the quarter in that machine. It's like 15 years later, I'm still pissed about it. Okay?
I'm gonna tell Donovan you threw him under the bus.
Good, tell him.
And the 11-year-old that plays Madden knows the game can end in a tie. Anyway, welcome in once again. A couple of get-right games the Eagles are coming off of, and wouldn't you know it, those Cincinnati Bengals are coming off the exact same get-right games. Both teams 2-0 against the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants. So we will see who got more right, I guess, in this week's matchup. But yes, welcome in once again to the betPARX pregame show. We have Seth Joyner, of course, Eagles Hall of Famer, and veteran Eagles reporter Derrick Gunn. Seth, when you talk about taking on the Cincinnati Bengals team, the first thing that jumps to mind is what, and what do you need to see from this Eagles team today?
Obviously, this is a team that's loaded with talent and players that can get it done, but they're experiencing some serious, injuries. And they've got one major weapon, and what a weapon he is, and that's Ja'Marr Chase. Joe Burrow has played some solid football all season long, but their record doesn't reflect how good he's actually played because they haven't been very good on the defensive side of the football. So this is an opportunity for the Eagles, to stack another win, take another small step towards perfection, and it's going to be a curious game for me to watch because of offensively for the Eagles, they've established that they can run the football. Now, whether they want to run the football or not, that's a whole nother ball game. The Cincinnati Bengals defense has given up 136 yards per game on the ground. The Eagles rank second in the National Football League at 166 yards per game. Will the Eagles take advantage of that early to set up what they want to do in the passing game, which, oddly enough, the Cincinnati Bengals ranked 21st against the pass, giving up, 217 yards per game. So, I like to look at stats like that as the season progresses and you start to get the rankings where teams rank and whatnot, because from a game plan standpoint, D-Gun,
yep,
I feel like, the Eagles should take advantage of their weaknesses. And their strength right now is running the football as Jalen tries to get on track and tries to find himself. Come out early. You haven't scored a single point in the first quarter through 6 games. Come out, run the football, go play action pass, possess the ball, stop taking deep shots. Let's move the chains and methodically move down the field and get some points on the board early to stress this Cincinnati Bengals offense out.
Seth, you mentioned injury. Gunner, we just heard before the show started, we just found out about T. Higgins. What is his status for today?
Well, come to find out that he suffered some kind of quad injury in practice on Friday, and they were going to wait until game time. So I guess they sent him out today to warm up a bit. He's a no-go, and that's going to hurt that offense because Joe Burrow, as lethal as he can be, he's even more lethal when he has both of his weapons, T. Higgins and Ja'Marr Chase. Obviously, with Higgins out of this game, that helps that Eagles' young secondary a lot. But don't discount what Joe Burrow can do in his home stadium. I mean, the man's only thrown 2 interceptions, and he's got almost 1,800 yards passing this year. So even though the record doesn't reflect it, Joe Burrow's having a pretty good season, and Cincinnati's a desperate team trying to get to 500.
It's pretty incredible because I know all week long you've been hearing from Darius Slay, a little Quenyon Mitchell as well, talking about this great measuring stick game against this solid receiving core that the Cincinnati Bengals have. And with Joe Burrow slinging it, he can even turn an average star into a Pro Bowl type talent. So when you talk about that measuring stick type of game, Quenyon Mitchell has balled out in every game he has played so far. This week, earlier, Vic Fangio acknowledged under the radar, similar to the way things went down with Devin White and Nakobe Dean in training camp, that all of a sudden Nakobe Dean was the starter. Well, we thought that Isaiah Rodgers would be the starting corner opposite Darius Slay in Green Bay. It turns out that wasn't the case at all. It was Quinyon Mitchell all along. So he takes over that spot from the start of the season. Now Cooper DeJean takes over for another starter in Avonte Maddox. You have two rookies, one in your slot, one on the outside opposite Darius Slay, going up against still an extremely talented Jamar Chase, and you just touched on him today, Seth. But when you talk about that type of matchup, what's the measuring stick look like for those young corners today?
Well, listen, Darius Slay has played better, the last couple of games. D-Gun and I was talking about it on the way out to the set. I would put Quinyon Mitchell on Jamar Chase no matter where he went today. Now, I know the problem with that is a lot of times it's a tell. If you travel, that means you're in man. If you don't travel, a lot of times, it's hard for the quarterback to decipher what you're in. and the problem is, when guys travel, especially if he's on the outside. Now, if he's in the slot, obviously, Cooper DeJean is going to draw that matchup. But the problem is, when guys start to travel, the quarterback is trying to get a pre-snap read as to what you're in. And a lot of times you don't like for guys to travel because now if they've got to play zone, they've got to play zone on the other side of where they're actually used to being. I think that Quinyon Mitchell is smart enough and Darius Slay are smart enough that you can travel one guy and play all of your coverages because they can play from both sides. I just like the one-on-one matchup. When you want to go man coverage, I like that matchup better with Quinyon Mitchell than I do Darius Slay at this point in time.
How big a game is it for those young corners, Gunner?
Well, this is another test. I thought the last two games were great measuring sticks against inferior opponents for these young players to shine, and that's exactly what they did. Now you're stepping up a little bit in competition level against the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, I keep emphasizing, don't underestimate this Bengals team at home, even though their 3-4 record indicates they're not having the kind of year that they want to have. But if you look at Cincinnati historically in recent years, they've always gotten off to this slow start, and all of a sudden they catch fire. Hopefully this is not the day they catch fire. But I think this is a great test for whoever's covering Jamar Chase, because Jamar Chase, year in and year out, when he's healthy, is one of the best pass catchers in the National Football League. So it's going to be a test. I like what Seth talks about in terms of having your corners travel. I just think it's wishful thinking because that's not what Vic Fangio does in his defense. He likes to keep his corners on one side or the other. And if I'm Cincinnati, I'm going to test Darius Slay against Jamar Chase as much as I can. Or I'm going to have Jamar Chase line up in the slot. Occasionally you'll see him line up in the slot. I don't necessarily need to see him on Quinyon Mitchell. If the Bengals have done their homework, they understand already going into this game. This is not an average young cornerback over there for the Eagles. This young man has been exceptional. Why would I put my star receiver in harm's way possibly and negate possible sustained drives by putting Jamar Chase on that side?
I tell you what, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Cincinnati Bengals give the Eagles a steady dive to Jamar Chase in the slot.
Yeah.
Because the Eagles have they've had problems defensively defending the middle of the field. But I would run a lot. If I'm going to go man with Cooper DeJean on him, I would run a lot of doubles from the slot position. Mm-hmm. Line Cooper DeJean up inside, make him think that he's got the outside release, the ball snap, hop outside and bring one of those corners down. Roll your safeties. Roll the opposite corner down to help double. Or double with the linebacker on the inside, let him release inside with an outside technique, and let the linebacker blast him within that 5-yard area to just completely take him out of the route. Because really, he's the only weapon that they have with T. Higgins down today.
Mm-hmm. Same way I look at it as well. When you talk about this other word that became a buzzword this week, and I know it happens for a lot of football teams that are looking to overuse this phrase, get right, identity gets mentioned a lot. Now, truth be told, I hate this argument, and I hate when people talk about what the identity of a team is, because ultimately the only thing that really matters is your identity a winner or is your identity a loser. And I'll point out to you, gentlemen, the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles, if they needed their identity to be a running team, they were a running team. They could beat you on the ground. If they needed to beat you by getting after the quarterback, they got after the quarterback. If they needed to air it out with Jalen Hurts, they aired it out. Whatever they needed to do to win a game, they were a chameleon. No true identity. They could beat you in so many different ways. When you look at this team and all the weapons they have offensively speaking, Seth, I'll start with you on this one. What do you think their number one identity should be in order to be a winning football team throughout the rest of the year?
Well, see, for me, identity just means that this is the mode of operation we're going to start from, okay? It doesn't mean that you have to stay there. What you hope for is in the beginning of the year, you make a defined, proclamation as to what your identity is, that we're going to come out and we're going to run the football and we're going to pass off of that. But obviously there's games where you're going to go into where you're playing against a team that's very stout against the run and they're not very good against the pass. And now you can use that identity as a – what's the word I'm looking for? You can
bread and butter?
Well, you can use it as a decoy. Okay, so if our identity is to come out and run the football, well, we're going to go heavy play action to start the game and attack the weakness, which is your pass defense. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I also think that teams need to, at the beginning of the year, define who they're going to be. What's your identity? What's your identity on defense? What's your identity on offense? It's clear to everyone who's got eyes to see that the run game with Saquon running the football the way he is, that's the identity of this football team right now, okay? And you struggle through the first quarter on a continuous basis through 6 games this year, not scoring any points because you lacked identity. You came out, you tried to throw the ball early, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, okay? You just haven't been able to possess the football long enough in the first quarter to be able to sustain drives to get you in position to get on the other side of the 50 where you could put some points on the board. That has to stop because if you can run the ball in the second half or the second quarter, you could certainly run it in the first quarter. So, be true to what your identity is. Your identity right now is you're trying to get your quarterback to a place where he's got rhythm and efficiency. The way that you've been able to do that in a few games is by running the ball first, setting the table with the run game, and then being able to throw the ball off of that. Well, people say, well, last week that wasn't the case. He only threw the ball 14 times. Well, you identified that you could do whatever you wanted to do through a motivated Saquon Barkley offensively. So if that's the case, use your best weapons, your offensive line, your high-paid running back, hand him the ball, get into a rhythm, convert some third downs. I think the Eagles right now offensively are not a very good third down team. They're only converting 34%. I know from a defensive perspective, our goal was always, D-Gun, to hold a team to 33% or less. That's the marker for great defensive football teams. The better offensive teams, they operate somewhere in the 40 to 50 percentile. The Eagles have got to get away from this 34%. They rank 23rd out of 32 teams, and they've got to get that fixed. And I would submit to you that the majority of the reason why they're not converting at a higher rate is when you look at their third down conversions in the first half, it is abysmal because they're throwing the ball too much instead of getting back to your identity, living on the identity of running the football, play action passes, take the short to intermediate routes, continue to possess the ball, score some points, and let the explosive play happen when it happens instead of always trying to force it. The minute they see blitz, the minute they see man-to-man coverage, the ball's going to A.J. Brown every single time. Doesn't have to necessarily be that way.
All right, fair enough. Gunnar, before we hit this break, I want to hear what you have to say about this. You talk about a team's identity. If you're sitting next to Nick Sirianni, if you're sitting next to Kellen Moore, what's this team's identity?
I don't know what it is right now because we've seen them play different styles of football every game, basically. It was a tale of two halves the last game. The passing game was not there. It was like they were playing right into the Giants' hands, and, of course, the Giants racked up 4 sacks. Now, you knew going into that game the Giants were the leading team in the NFL in quarterback sacks. What do? You play right into their hands trying to try to pass the ball. All of a sudden at halftime, you decide we're going to go a different route, and you ran them into the ground. You should be able to find out your identity a lot sooner, test the waters a lot sooner. It shouldn't take you 30 minutes of football to figure out exactly what the opposition is trying to do to you. Nick Sirianni, Kellen Moore have to do a better job of deciphering. You spend all week looking at game film, looking at teams' tendencies in terms of what they like to do, where their weaknesses are, so on and so forth, yet you come out and play right into the strength of a defense. You've got to get away from that. You've got to attack them. Now, if your running game is what sets the mode for that particular game, if they take that away from you early, then you go to the air to try to loosen them up. But don't come out of the gate and give an inferior opponent the idea that they can hang with you, because as we've seen week in and week out in the National Football League every year, expect the unexpected.
You know what, D-Gun? It's amazing that he brings that up because Nick Sirianni was asked early this week about the first 15 and how they script. Do you script, or are you trying to explore what the defense is doing? And his answer was, sometimes it's the first 15, sometimes we're trying to explore and trying to get a feel for, how the defense is going to play us. Well, as the season progresses, I can understand that mentality weeks 1 through 4. But when you get beyond the 4th week, you've got 4 game tapes that tells you who that team is and what it is that they like to do.
Absolutely.
So you should be scripting your first 15 with certainty that those first 15 can be dominant against anything that they show you from a defensive perspective.
If not dominant, at least show you where you can attack for the remainder of the football game, whether it's on the ground, through the air, whether it's short passes, whether you can hit them deep, whether you can hit them with trick plays. Those first 15 plays should give you a true indication of exactly, even though we all know both teams are going to come into this game with certain elements of their attack that hasn't been on film yet. No team exposes its entire playbook 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks into a season. Every week there's a new wrinkle you try to hit the opposition with. But yet by the first 15, 20 plays, you should know exactly what they're trying to do.
All right, we'll try to crack the code on what the Eagles' identity is, but I know Derrick Gunn's identity, and it was giddy, quite frankly, this morning when talking about a certain matchup. He's going to be watching the closest in today's game. Just frankly, giddy is what you were. So we're going to get to that when we come back on the betPARX on the betPARX pregame show presented by Lehocky from the incredible Parx Casino. There it is, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them, sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
At Pond Lehocky Giordano, we understand the impact an injury can have on your life. Our experienced attorneys have recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we know we can do the same for you. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Did you know that Davis Honda will pay top dollar for your car? Go to DavisBuysCars.com and get an instant quote on your vehicle. We'll make the purchase as easy as possible and put cash in your hand faster than you can say DavisBuysCars.com.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
I'm in that mode. Stick to the code. I'm in my zone. Let's go. Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
This next segment is brought to you by betPARX app. And right now on the betPARX app, how about this parlay presented by Parx Casino? Eagles on the money line, gentlemen, along with all 3 anytime touchdowns from Barkley, Hurts, and Brown going off at plus 1,400. I actually like that bet. Plus 1,400. They're giving away money here. $10 bet gives you $140. Not a bad day at the office right there. When we were talking before the show, every once in a while, Derrick Gunn will say to me, make sure you ask me about this. And it's a giddy, a little bit of a chuckle amongst them. But we're going to make this part of our Verizon Keys to the Game, going behind enemy lines with our friend Derrick Gunn. Gunner, what is the matchup you're going to be paying the most attention to during this Eagles-Bengals game?
I'm going to be watching Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson going up against Fred Johnson. Hendrickson doesn't get a lot of the national notoriety like a T.J. Watt, players like that, a Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, so on and so forth. But year in and year out, he's one of the top sackers in the National Football League. If you go back over the last 4+ seasons, 3 of the last 4, he was in double-digit sacks. Last year, he had 17.5 sacks. Now, at this point in 4+ seasons, he's got 60 sacks already.
Oof.
He right now is tied for 4th in the National Football League with 7. He has an incredible motor on a snap. He's going up against Fred Johnson, who a couple of games ago had a decent game, but last week gave up 4 pressures on Jalen Hurts. That's not a good matchup. Trey Hendrickson, if they don't chip this guy, could win that matchup all day long because he's just that quick and he has such a good array of moves. Cincinnati does not have a lot of standout defensive players. This is the guy you got to put a bullseye on and know where he is at all times. And a lot of times if I'm Jalen, especially when it comes to if you're going to be in a shotgun 7 yards deep, you better roll to your right because he's coming from your left.
And one of the things I'm going to be looking at today is how they're going to be using their tight ends. Because I agree with you guys. You talk about using Saquon Barkley as much as possible, especially if he's having success, which he can certainly do against this Cincinnati Bengals team. Jack Stahl, Grant Calcaterra, how are they going to perform? Because one of the biggest things that Dallas Goedert does is go out there and he chips or he blocks. He gets that done better than almost anybody in the NFL when you're talking about a physical tight end. Even away from the skill of catching a football and running afterwards, it's all about how he can chip at the line of scrimmage. Seth, what are you looking at in this game in particular when we look at your behind enemy lines brought to you by Verizon?
Well, D-Gun talked about the player to watch. I'm going to talk about a player to watch on the defensive side of the ball. Jalen Carter has to have a massive day today. The Bengals' offensive line is not that good. They've never been that good. Even the year that they went to the Super Bowl, they were not that good. This is a game where, and we talk about it all the time, we talk about the big two in the middle, but now, you've got a Jomo, you've got, Milton Williams, and you got Booker that's been playing really well and stealing some playing time from Jordan Davis. But this is a game where those guys on the inside, they're going to have to dominate. They're really going to have to dominate. Joe Burrow's the type of guy, he wants to get the ball out of his hands. He's missing a weapon. He's only got one real true weapon. And the way that the Eagles have played the last 2 weeks from an aggressive standpoint, they can put themselves in a situation where they can take that first read away. If they take that first read away and he has to go to the second read, then that means that those guys on the inside have got to get home. Now, Jalen Carter had a big day last week, 2 sacks in that game, but he hasn't had D-Gun that back-to-back game where he's played great and then followed it up with another great game.
Right.
I need to begin to start to see that out of him if he's going to be one of the premier defensive tackles in the game like everyone's touting him to be. This is an opportunity for him to dominate the game in a massive way. And he needs to start to show up today. And I'm going to be watching him intently to see where his effort level is, how his aggression is, and whether he steps up to the challenge of being able to stack 2 back-to-back good games.
Now, Bryce Huff has, I don't want to jinx anything, half sack and then a full big boy sack last week, one of the many the Eagles had against the New York Giants. So what can we expect from Bryce Huff? Is this going to be the new norm for him, or was that just a lucky streak of 2 straight games?
D, I have been, probably Bryce Huff's biggest critic. But one of the things that Vic Fangio has found out that, he's not the type of player that you can play him a lot on first and second down because he doesn't hold up on the edge all that well. But what he can do, if you let him get it down the 4-point stance, which he was not doing early in the year, which he has been doing since he's gotten this sack and a half, is he's been down this 4-point stance in obvious passing situations. So, save the offseason because you got him signed for 3 years. You got 2 more years with him. You stuck with that contract. Save the development for the offseason. Right now, his best contribution is rushing the passer. And he has gotten to his pressures are up. He's rushing a lot better. Put him in a 4-point stance in an obvious passing situation only and put him out there and let him go.
All right, then one more matchup I want to talk about here. Sidney Brown, Chase Brown. Sidney Brown didn't play all that much last week when it came to just defensive snaps. He's going to get probably more of an opportunity. You had Vic Fangio earlier in the week, gentlemen, talking about how he's earning more and more reps. And when you're talking about a guy getting a starting role, maybe somebody's going to have to vacate that starting role. Definitely somebody's going to have to vacate that starting role. Sidney Brown vying for that spot. Could he have a statement game against his twin brother Chase, who's running the football rather well this year for the Bengals?
Well, I said from the outset, when Sidney Brown is healthy, I believe he's automatically going to be a starter on the back end of that defense. And he had a great breakup pass last week. He came from the middle of the field and along the sideline and had a great breakup pass last week. Plus, he's a big hitter, too. It's funny. You go back to earlier in the week, and Nick Sirianni was basically giddy when someone asked him about the twin brothers facing each other. He says, man, I'd like to see them meet in the hole. I'd like to see that collision. So, obviously, the Chase is a hard runner. He's still finding his niche in the National Football League, but he's their leading rusher. We know what Sidney is capable of doing. When the two shall meet, I can't wait to see what happens if they do meet in the hole, who gets the better of that one. But I love the way – I love Sidney before he got hurt last year. I just love everything about this kid. He's fearless. He plays like a Quinyon Mitchell, basically. He's fearless. You don't notice that he was a young rookie player last year before he got hurt. He came onto the scene. He made plays. Now, sometimes his aggressiveness had him out of position, cost him a few times, but that's okay because if you're going to be an exceptional player in this league, you can't be afraid to make mistakes. You got to go out there, make your mistakes, regroup, and then do it right the next time. And Sidney did that. He comes back. He's chomping at the bit to come back. I thought he had a phenomenal game last week. Now, you don't think Vic Fangio is noticing this? What an exception of young options to go to now when you want to mix and match on the back end of your defense. If I'm CJ, I'm looking over my shoulder also now as well. Blankenship, I'm looking over my shoulder as well because you have a lot of interchangeable parts now in the back end of that defense.
Certainly, yeah.
See, I would say this. I hope that their interaction as brothers is limited. I want my linebackers making tackles on running backs. I don't want my safeties making tackles on running backs unless he's the dime backer that they drop him in the box or they drop him in the box in a blitz and you bring him. But I want to see Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond, make the majority of the tackles on Chase Brown. I don't want to – listen, it's a great storyline. Everybody wants to see Sidney blow him up. Everybody wants to see, what that interaction looks like. But I want to see our darn linebackers be making those tackles because when your safeties lead the team in tackles, that's not a good thing. That means that run-wise, you're not doing a good job up front.
Right. Yeah, you're getting to that third level, if you will. We talked there about Bryce Huff, mentioned 2 straight games where he recorded a sack and a half sack, obviously. 2 straight games also for Jalen Hurts, where I'm hoping this is the new norm for Jalen Hurts, not turning the football over, and even better, not putting the precious pigskin in peril in a game for 2 consecutive games. What are the odds, Seth, that we see that again, a 3rd straight game against this Bengals defense?
Well, listen, I think it's a point of emphasis. I think it's also one of the reasons why, Jalen's a little reluctant to just let it go because he's cognizant of the turnovers. At some point in time, D-Gun, he's going to have to, just get back to just letting it go and trusting that he's making the right read, trust his accuracy, and just let the ball go. But I think, in a lot of ways, that's a work in progress. Him understanding the offense is a work in progress. There was a lot of talk this week on social media about Jalen not having the ability to do the simple things, him not having the ability to read the mesh, and I admonished a lot of people online this week because of that. I said, show me a quarterback that doesn't miss a read every once in a while. It's real easy for us as fans and as analysts to sit and watch a game and see a guy running wide open and say, oh, he missed the guy wide open. Well, you have no idea where his eyes are supposed to be and what his progression is. Now, I'm not saying that he gets it right all the time. There's a lot of things he needs to improve on, and there are some things that he is missing that are right there in the progression, But a lot of that has to do with the philosophical methodology of what the Eagles want to do. They want the big play down the field. They want the explosive play. They want the ball going to A.J. Brown in certain situations. And a lot of what they're talking about is the wheel route with Devontae coming across and Jalen missed it. Well, Jalen's looking at Saquon. And he had him wide open on an early one where he was looking right and Saquon was wide open. Everybody's like, he's open, throw it to him. Even I yelled it in the middle of the game, But really what happened was now they come back to that play, D-Gun, and Saquon takes off, but now he's covered. But he wants that okay? And he's slow coming off of it to be able to see Devontae cutting right underneath for the first down. Now, his processing has to get faster. He has to understand and know if Saquon's not there right now, I got to go to the crosser. And he had the crosser. But that comes with time. That comes with him, being able to understand the offense. And I would submit to you there's a lot about this offense in Kellen Moore that he probably doesn't understand, that he's not seeing it. So don't tell me he's done it before. He's been able to read through situations and make great plays down the field, and we kind of forget about that, because we're in this critical mode right now that Jalen's not playing at top level. There's a whole lot of quarterbacks in the National Football League that's not playing at top level right now. We're not beating those guys up the way we beat Jalen Hurts up. That's for certain. All you got to do is go to social media, and if you're following the Eagles, you'll see it all over the place. But don't tell me that this guy can't get it done. Don't tell me that Jalen can't find where he was in the past and be that again. Because you want to know something, damn it? If Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield, okay, and Sam Darnold can get right, I bet every penny that I got that Jalen Hurts can get right at some point in time. Because those guys at one point or another were left for dead, out of the league, and nobody wanted them. And look at them now.
But see, the common denominator when you talk about those three is they found their golden goose with another team. And I'm not saying Jalen has to go to another team to find his golden goose. Go back to 2022 when he stepped back to pass, he would get the ball off in less than 2.5 seconds. This year's closer to 3.5 seconds. Now, maybe he's still trying to understand Kellen Moore's offense, but at this stage.
Or a little gun shy.
If he's a little gun shy, I'm concerned about that. Because as a fifth-year player in the National Football League, he should not be gun shy at this point.
Well, it's the turnovers, D-Gun.
I get that, but you know what? Brett Favre. All the great ones turn the ball over.
You're right.
Brett Favre's in the Hall of Fame with the most interceptions in the history of the National Football League.
But when you get lit up like a Roman candle every single time you turn it over because you turn the ball over, 15, 16 consecutive games in a row?
Yes.
And the coaches are talking about it, guess what? It becomes a point of emphasis. So he's not throwing the ball with anticipation. He's not throwing the ball with rhythm and timing. He's throwing the ball. He's trying to make a safe throw unless he's throwing the ball to A.J. Brown. That's the only guy he trusts that if I throw it to him and it ain't right, that A.J.'s going to figure out a way to make sure it hits the ground.
When you're playing the most visible and the most highly paid position in the National Football League, your skin has to be a little bit thicker than everybody else's on the football field. At this stage, if he was in his first year, I would agree with you 100%. And I understand he's had a multitude of different coordinators and people in his ear in terms of what they expect of him, but as a football player, he's been on the big stage at Alabama, at Oklahoma, and for the last 3 years in the NFL. He did it fine in 2022. All of a sudden, now he's regressing. Why? And we can't just say it's a change in offensive coordinators because football is a mental thing in a lot of ways. Whether you're a quarterback, running back, there's an instinctual thing that just takes over. And with Jalen this year, that's not happening. And because of that, he's finding himself getting put in positions that the offense doesn't want him to be, the coaching staff doesn't want him to be, and he shouldn't have to be because the mistakes, Seth will tell you this, the mistakes you make at this level are more glaring than any success for the most part that you have at this level.
I know we got to go to break. I'd argue this, 20 different ways to next Sunday, but I'm going to let Mark take us to break.
Well, of the things that we watched last week, we saw a lot of press coverage. What do we see? We saw a lot of press coverage last week. Jalen Hurts take care of the football, and Jalen Hurts get down and eat a sack and not try to play hero ball. Very encouraging sign. Also, wanted to highlight one more time that those behind enemy lines points brought to you by Verizon. For every Eagles defensive sack this season, Verizon will donate $100 to the Travis Mannion Foundation. How fantastic is that? When we come back, we're going to talk about our players that we're expecting to be banked on in this Eagles-Bengals matchup when we return. There, once again, is betPARX Casino's betPARX Sportsbook. Enjoy a fine leather lounge chair while taking in all the action.
And the next thing I knew, I woke up in a hospital bed.
Has a friend ever told you a story about an accident and someone says,
you should probably sue them.
Forget your friend. Call Pond Lehocky Giordano.
We're an injury law firm that's recovered billions of dollars for our clients.
And with our vast network of attorneys throughout the country, we know we can do the same for you.
So if you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
One conversation is all it takes, and you won't pay a dime until we win.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the home care program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
This is Parks. Parks, Pennsylvania's #1 casino experience. This is how you win.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come, join our team.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
Welcome back to the betPARX pregame show presented by Pond Lehocky. Over 3,200 slot machines here at Parx Casino, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derrick Gunn with you for the betPARX pregame show. When you break it down in this Eagles game, we're going to be looking at a couple of players that we could certainly bank on. And when you talk about this Eagles offense, we could talk once again about that identity. But as far as players to bank on, making our predictions for the postgame show, mid-pen bank player to bank on, I got to start it off with A.J. Brown. I started off with him last week. He opened things up. I mean, it was Saquon Barkley that broke everything open for the Eagles with that 55-yard run, and then certainly went on to have 176 yards on the ground for the Eagles last week. But I think the security blanket of Jalen Hurts, and I'll say this, unfortunately, is not Saquon Barkley. It's A.J. Brown. When A.J. Brown is healthy and they're on the field at the same time, it feels like Jalen Hurts feels comfortable doing everything else because he has that security blanket that he knows he can air it out to. He knows that he also could pull that ball back on a play-action pass, and like he did last week against the Giants, hit A.J. Brown on that slant, and we haven't seen enough of that over the course of this year, and I know A.J.'s been hurt, but even last year we didn't see that a lot. I look at A.J. Brown as a player that has to be there for Jalen Hurts to feel like he can absolutely win a game no matter which direction it's going. When you look at a player to bank on, Gunner, who are you looking at for this game?
I'm taking Saquon. There's no question about it. When all's going wrong, give the ball to Saquon. I'd come out and bust Cincinnati in the mouth right out of the gate with a steady dose of Saquon until you tell me that he can't run anymore, that you've stonewalled him, and then you go to your other options. You said AJ is Jalen's security blanket?
Yeah.
No, Saquon is that line of security blanket for me. When that man runs, when he gets ahead of steam, he's almost unstoppable. With his lower body power, his speed, his ability to be explosive as well as powerful. It's a rare combination for a running back in the National Football League. Give me Saquon Barkley every day of the week.
Well, let the lawyers at Pond Lehocky please note this. I agree with you. I just think it's the opposite. I think that Jalen Hurts looks at A.J. Brown and says, "Oh, good, he's here. I can go ahead and take some chances with Devontae Smith. I can take some chances with Saquon, maybe even Grant Calcaterra, because I know if you know what hits the fan, my man's right there. Who do you got?"
I know this is a player to bank on, but in order for this offense to operate the way it needs to operate, for Saquon to have a good day, or for A.J. Brown to have a good day, the offensive line has got to play well. I'm banking on the entire offensive line today. A lot of people don't know Fred Johnson started off in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And they shipped him off. Oof. You think he's not going to be motivated today? I'm going to go so far as to say I'm banking on the offensive line, but I'm banking on Fred Johnson not to give up a sack today to Trey Hendrickson.
That's
where I'm going. That's what I'm banking on.
All right, so this is very specific. This is in the history of mid-ped bank player to bank on. This is a sack charged to Fred Johnson. So no sacks. Trey Hendrickson could get a sack, but just not on Fred Johnson.
No sacks. He better go to the other side and try his luck on Lane.
Fair enough. Fair enough. See,
Look at D-Gun. D-Gun's like, this ain't going to end well.
Now, this is fascinating.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
That's true.
See, when you said player, when you said, I know this is a player to bank on, I didn't think you were going to go to a group of players. I thought you were going to go to coaching. Because one of the codes that has yet to be cracked by the Eagles this season is the way they start football games. You alluded to it earlier, the way Nick Sirianni answered the question, I believe it was Wednesday, talking about why this team has struggled to start games and whether or not they script the first 15 plays or they treat the first quarter as if it's a boxing match first minute where you're just seeing how the other fighter feels you out. You're feeling each other out, that type of thing. It has not been cracked yet this season. You have not scored points, not scored a touchdown in the first quarter this season.
It's unheard of.
What goes into, I look at coaching above all else with that. You have not put your players in the best position to be ready to score points in the early goings of games. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, we've talked about bread and butter. We've talked about identity. How do you crack that code finally of putting points on the board in an opening drive even in this season?
So I can go all the way back, but let me start at the Bucs game, okay? The Eagles went 3-and-out. Then they had a 14-play, 70-yard drive that ended in a touchdown, okay? In those 3-and-outs, they gave Saquon Barkley the ball one time, okay? So in 9 plays, he touched the ball twice. That's not their identity, okay? Let's fast forward to the Browns game. They go 3-and-out, 6 plays and out, 2 punts in a row before they go 14 plays. They end up kicking a 49-yard field goal, okay? So in 9 plays, he touched the ball 3 times. See, I track all of this stuff. I don't just preach that they need to give Saquon Barkley the ball. I track it to verify that they have not been doing it, and it's one of the reasons why they continue to struggle early in the game.
You listening to this?
I'm taking notes.
All right.
So last week against the Giants, they punted 3 times in a row. They went 4 plays, punt. 3 plays, punt. 8 plays, punt. So that's 15 plays. Out of those 15 plays is more like it, okay? They gave Saquon the ball 7 times. Now, I would say that should be more like it, but the way he dominated running the football later on in the game, they probably should have gave him the ball a hell of a lot more.
There you go.
So coming into the game today, that has to be their focal point. You know, somebody asked Nick Sirianni last week in a press conference, hey, Nick, are you a running team now? And he said, you better believe it, we are.
Yeah.
So I want to see whether that was just word salad or whether it was actually this is what he believes. Whether is he trying to throw the opponent off to get them to stack the box so they can throw the ball? Because they really want to throw the football when it's all said and done. But the best thing you do right now, and the best protection and the best weapon you give your quarterback to be successful is by running the football. So if they just run it early, establish the line of scrimmage, dominate the line of scrimmage, now when you go play action pass and you want to throw the ball, you're in a much better position to be able to throw the football.
Okay, no, I'm with you. I think that would be the best way to do this. The fact that the Eagles continue to have this as a problem for me is a direct reflection on coaching more so than it is playing, because this is the game plan here. Whether you're scripting it or not, you're not going out there to be bad. You're not going out there to not score points. And my belief has always been fingerprints of a coach are really never more on the game than they are in the first quarter. When you have prepared, you have tried to put your players in that great position to have success, and when you can't have that success, that's a direct reflection of coaching. because after every single game, you hear it from every NFL head coach. It's not just Nick Sirianni. It's not Vic Fangio. It's not just Andy Reid. It's we got to put our players in a better position to have success. Well, the best crack at it you can have is a week worth of preparation with all the football minds that are working on this and still the same result over and over again. Is it as easy as Seth is talking about? Now, it's been difficult for the Eagles, but it seems like an obvious code to crack. Just give the ball to Saquon.
Why did you not listen to me when I said who the player to bank on was? Did you not listen to me a few moments ago when I said
to support your theory?
I think it was a rhetorical statement.
Don't be trying to cover it.
Well, I'll put it to you like this. Look. To support your theory even further, here, just listen to this. This is for the people that love the analytics, okay? Now, Seth, you mentioned that the Eagles, when it comes to rushing yards per game, second in the NFL. Cincinnati's defense, 21st in the NFL. Eagles rushing touchdowns, 7th in the NFL. Cincinnati Bengals tied for 22nd in the NFL. Now, this is where it gets a little dicey. The lowest success rate on rushes, success rate against rushes, this is for the Bengals defense, just 49%, lowest in the NFL. That ain't good.
What else do you need to know? I'm coming out with Saquon, and I'm smashing Cincinnati right in the mouth. You know, it's a term we don't hear much anymore. An old school term is play some smash mouth football. Oof. Today is a smash mouth football kind of day. You want to get points on the board? Take your opening drive, hand the ball off to Saquon, bring Gainwell in when Saquon needs a breather, chew up the clock, go down the field, and get rid of this goose egg in the first quarter. The fact that we're in the 7th game and we're still talking about this team has not scored 1 point with all the explosive weapons they have in the opening quarter is absurd. So, yes, it's a direct reflection on the coaching staff. You have Nick Sirianni, who's an offensive mind, Kellen Moore, who's an offensive mind, and you mean to tell me in this day and age of offensive football that you can't come up with something more creative? I might even go so far as to say come out and throw a ball deep, and then give the ball to Saquon. Just go back 7 yards, just chuck it deep to A.J. or Devontae going down the field, just to loosen them up, to make Cincinnati think something different, anything. And then you pound them between the tackles until they say we quit.
All right, when we come back, there's one more matchup we haven't discussed yet. I want to dip into that. It comes to Jalen Hurts taking on a certain member of this Cincinnati Bengals secondary, and we'll give you our official predictions for Eagles, Bengals. Kick it up when we come back. The 360 Lounge here at Parx Casino. Enjoy some fine drinks and fantastic entertainment.
Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday. At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional-grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the home care program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Verizon. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derrick Gunn with you for the betPARX pregame show from Parx Casino in Ben Salem. Over 3,200 slot machines, an incredible 360 lounge, and a great sports book here at betPARX. Geno Stone with the Ravens had 7 interceptions last year. He has just 1, and that came last week against the Cleveland Browns in a unfortunate banged-up game for the Browns offense and the Browns quarterback as well. But Geno Stone, certainly a ball-hawking safety, off to a slow start when it comes to taking the football away. We talked earlier in the show, of course, about the fact that there have been 2 straight games now, not to jinx anything, with Jalen Hurts not turning the football over. How aware of Geno Stone does he have to be when he's dropping back for passes today?
Well, when you have a ball-hawking safety like that, a smart offensive coordinator and a smart quarterback knows where he is at all times, and you don't want to test the waters too many times. Now, you don't fear anybody you play against, but you don't want to test the waters too many times because the better safeties in the league, they know how to read tendencies in terms of what a quarterback might want to do, even though they're that far off the ball. And because he's had that kind of success last couple of seasons, you got to see what he can and cannot do. And you have enough weapons to spread him out. He can't cover the whole field. See, but you have enough. So you have enough weapons to spread him out. But don't go at his side too much because the only thing it's like putting a stick in a hornet's nest. All you're going to do is stir up the hornet, and eventually he's going to sting you. Go over there and test him and stir it up just a little bit, and then go away from him the rest of the game.
Geno Stone, how much a threat to this nice 2 turnover less streak?
Listen, I'm not going to worry so much about him. If they're concerned, you can always use a player's strengths against them. Like if you got a highly aggressive defense that's fast and they tend to over pursue, you run misdirection, reverses, and things like that, draws, things like that to slow them down. Well, you can do the same thing, in the passing game. You know that he's going to take chances, so you don't give him the chance to take the chance. Listen, everybody knows that Jalen wants to get A.J. Brown the ball. I expect for Devontae Smith to have more of a say in how this game progresses and ends up today because, I believe he was catchless last week. That's just unheard of. But a lot of it had to do with the fact that they only threw the ball 14 times. Jalen only put it in the air 14 times. So I suspect that Devontae's going to be more of a factor today. But in a lot of situations, D-Gun, I believe that Jalen can use A.J. as a deterrent because if this guy is going to be leaning A.J.'s way because they know that that's where A.J. wants to go, well, look there. Make him move there and now go to your other weapons. It's just a matter of, being able to do the opposite of what teams expect for you to do.
He had 1 catch last week, but was gainless. Catch for -2 yards, unfortunately.
You know what I like about this Eagles receiving core? They
don't care.
They don't care. They just want to win. That's unheard of in today's game. How many times week in and week out, year in and year out, do we hear about the better receivers in the league? If they're not getting the ball enough, they grumble a little bit. I mean, go back a few weeks ago, Green Bay, Romeo Doubs. He didn't show up for practice for a couple of days, got suspended a game because he wasn't getting the ball. Now, the next game, he leads them. He gets like 10 catches for like 90-some yards and a touch. But this group of guys, and Devontae Smith has talked openly about this. They don't care about blocking. If they have to block 45 times a game, they don't care. Are they getting the W's? If Devontae doesn't get the looks, if A.J. doesn't get the looks, they don't care. All they care is about the W's. That's a rarity in today's game.
Certainly. One of the things that I did not hear Vic Fangio get asked about this week, and I was waiting to hear his response on it, and I'm curious what you gentlemen think about this. When the Eagles faced the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they allowed Baker Mayfield to just get rid of the football in a second and a half consistently.
Right.
The Eagles are coming off 2 games now where they have 13 sacks, 8 sacks and 5 sacks there. So they've had success in that realm. What we've also seen is more press coverage. Now, the question I wanted to hear from Vic Fangio, because previously he was asked about it, and he said, I leave it up to my players as to whether or not they want to get up on the line and play physical or if they want to stay back and give that cushion. It didn't look like that was the edict last week. Last week, it looked like you better get up on that line and you better jam those receivers. I know you noticed it, Seth, last week, but do you think it was mandated by the defensive coordinator to make that adjustment? Because they're going to need it today if Joe Burrow is going to get rid of that football quickly.
Listen, I would say it had to be. I've never been a proponent of giving a player an option on how to play something because the player is always going to choose the easiest way. It's a lot more challenging to get up and get in a wide receiver's face, especially if you're trying to jam him because you know that if you miss that one jam that potentially you're not going to catch up. So it's easier to stay off and keep everything in front of you and break up and make the tackle. But in order for this defense to work at optimal levels, they have to get up and play press. And they don't have to do it all the time because, Gerald Burrow is the type of quarterback that in his pre-snap, deciphering of what's going on, he's going to look over there, and if he sees Chase with a cornerback 8 to 10 yards off, he's just going to raise up and throw it to him. So you have to take that element away. Even if you're in a zone concept, get up and bump, give them the illusion that you're playing up, that we're rolling coverage that way, or you're in man-to-man, get a cadence on when he's snapping the ball, and now bail and get back to your third or get back to your halves, whatever it is, you're going to end up at. But to just give him something right out the gate, to give him a layup right out of the gate, just doesn't make good sense because he's too smart of a quarterback not to take advantage of it. So to answer your question, certainly. I believe that Vic was being honest when he says they have the option, but I guarantee you the way they played the last 2 weeks, he snatched that option right off the table.
Yeah, and wouldn't you know it? You got 13 sacks just like that by being more aggressive.
Well, and I don't want to douse the flame, but you got 13 sacks against Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones. I mean, those guys look at ghost all day. They're unsure of if you watch them closely, they were unsure of everything that they were doing out there, which allowed the Eagles to pin their ears back and really get after them. And that's not to take away from the fact that 13 sacks is still 13 sacks over 2 games. But you're playing a different breed of quarterback today. This guy, he sees everything. There's a reason why he only has 2 interceptions this year and 14 touchdown passes. Now, granted, one of his pieces is not going to be there today. The thing that concerns me about this Cincinnati team is this. They've been nicked up this year. They've lost 4 games by a grand total of 15 points. 3 of those losses, 1-point loss to Kansas City, 5-point loss to Washington, and a 3-point loss in overtime to Baltimore. So even without certain pieces, they can still put up points, okay? Now, what's that old saying? Eventually we're going to get it right. Hopefully today's not that day you get it right.
Certainly. All right, it's that time of the pregame show. We give you our official predictions for Eagles-Bengals. Today you have 2 teams, as I mentioned earlier, both had the same get-right games before this matchup today. The Eagles coming to this game 4-2 on the season. The Bengals 3-4, having won both those matchups. Now, when you look at this game today, I see the Eagles winning this one. And this might be one of the more confident games I have in the Philadelphia Eagles if they truly were get-right games. The bottom line is this is 2 teams that got right. One team is missing one of their best targets in T. Higgins, and I think this Eagles defense that has played extremely well as we expected and hoped that they would over the last 2 weeks continue to get it right against this against this Bengals offense. I see the Philadelphia Eagles winning this game today by a score of 30-17. Gunnar, I'll go to you next. What do you got?
I like the fact that T. Higgins is not in this lineup today. I think the Eagles have built upon something, especially young players over the last couple of games. We talked earlier in the show about historically the Eagles have never won in Cincinnati, and they have 2 ties there. I think they break that streak today. I think they go in there, they figure out exactly what Cincinnati's trying to do and overcome it real quick. I see the Eagles winning this game like 30-24.
30-20. You and I have just been right around the same.
Yeah.
Pretty much all season.
Yeah.
Seth?
And the mustache will prevail.
The mustache. Can we improve to a perfect 3-0? With the return of Derrick Gunn's mustache. Since the mustache has been grown back,
the mustache will rise again.
13 sacks since the mustache has come back.
I'm telling you right now,
no turnovers.
If they win today, we're creating a graphic for D Gunn for next week's show. A picture of D Gunn with a Groucho Marx mustache, and what the Eagles statistic look like defensively and offensively since the mustache came.
Well, you know what? If they win today, I'm gonna have to shave it off just to test the theory.
Whoa!
I gotta see if there's some truth to this theory.
Man, I'm calling your wife.
Oh no, you can't.
The minute they win.
What you talking about, Willis?
Throw all the razors away.
What you talking about, Willis? You'll be calling my house. You don't know me like that.
What did Gary Busey say in Rookie of the Year? Never mess with a winning streak.
There you go.
I believe that's what it was.
Oh, man.
All right, Seth, what do you like?
Listen, I've talked about launching points for this team and how they systematically, can get better from week to week. We thought that launching point would be right after the Saints game. deferred because after they beat the Saints, they go down to Tampa and just get the doors blown off of them. They come back after the bye, and although everybody wants to make a big deal about the fact that it was the Browns and it was the Giants and they won, they just squeaked by against the Browns. Listen, a win is a win, and they're trying to get better game by game, play by play. I believe that this team believes that they're trending in the right direction. And quite simply, you know, Cincinnati has an elite quarterback, and they got an elite wide receiver, and they've got an elite pass rusher. Beyond that, there's nothing elite about this football team. You know, now the Eagles have struggled. I'll grant you that. But I think that they're trending in the right direction. I like for them to win this game. Joe Burrow's he's going to figure out a way, D-Gun, to put some points on the board. But I still think the Eagles come out victorious, 27-20.
27-20 says Seth Joyner. Love to see 3 wins in a row. That's what we got them all at. Love to see no turnovers. Love to see a sack-tastic game from this Eagles defensive line of Fred Johnson.
Like Eddie Murphy said, it'd be beautiful. It'd be beautiful.
It'd be beautiful.
I didn't have that. I didn't have it on the bingo card. I did not have that on the bingo card today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking part in the betPARX pregame show presented by Pond Lehocky. For Seth Joyner, Derrick Gunn, both very beautiful. I'm Marc Farzetta. We'll catch you guys in post.
Come on, birds, fly today.
Oh, man.